1944. Strange aircraft gone over. In London, people are dying a violent death. The V1 bombardment is at its height. Roaring in low over the countryside, the V1 flying bomb is timed to fall upon the crowded streets of London. From the moment the snarl of its engine cuts out, there are 7 seconds of silence. 7 seconds to wait for death.
New form of attack imposed upon the people of London, a burden perhaps even heavier than the air raids of 1940 and 1941. Suspense and strain were more prolonged. Dawn brought no relief, and cloud no comfort. The man going home in the evening never knew what he would find. His wife, alone all day or with the children, could not be certain of his safe return. The blind, impersonal nature of the missile made the individual on the ground feel helpless. There was little that he could do, no human enemy that he could see shot down.
With the onslaught of the V1 bombs, arrangements are made to evacuate mothers and children from London.
For the first week of the bombardment, I kept the control in my own hands. Our fastest fighters, specially stripped and vigorously boosted, could barely overtake the speediest missiles. The flying bombs were much smaller than normal aircraft, and so they were difficult either to see or to hit. By the second week of July, we came to the conclusion that the guns could do very much better if the batteries were moved to the coast. The new deployment was a vast undertaking. In 4 days, the move to the coast was completed. defensive measures. Our bombing attacks on the launching sites went on. One of the main storage depots was utterly destroyed early in July by Bomber Command. Another, rated to hold 1,000, was smashed by American bombers.
In spite of these counterattacks, 6,000 Londoners are killed, 18,000 wounded. Almost as many as during the Blitz of 40-41.
I am sure of one thing, that London will never be conquered and will never fail, and that her renown, triumphing over every ordeal, will long shine among men.
The fighting in Normandy is bloody as the Americans and British and Canadians inch forward, preparing for the big attack that will break the German lines.
The Americans thrust westward across the Cherbourg Peninsula. Simultaneously, they advanced northward and after sharp fighting stood before the outer defenses of Cherbourg on June 22nd. The enemy resisted stoutly till the 26th in order to carry out demolitions. Liberating Normandy was a supreme event in the European campaign of 1944. Decisions had now to be taken about our next move in the Mediterranean, and it must be recorded with regret that these occasioned the first important divergence between ourselves and our American friends.
Operation Anvil is the plan for a large Allied landing on the French Mediterranean coast. The troops coming from Italy and North Africa. And its object to draw German divisions away from Eisenhower's front. Churchill wants to call them off. Churchill visited General Bradley.
On August the 7th, About the time the battle at Mortain was shaping up, Mr. Churchill came to my 12th Army Group command post, and after some discussion of the situation, he began to ask questions about the invasion that was scheduled to come up through southern France on August the 15th. I listened but did not comment, but I found out afterwards that he had suggested to General Eisenhower that the attack through southern France be called off and that those troops be brought around through the beaches already established in Normandy. I suspect that he came to me hoping that I would be on his side and he could enlist my aid in getting General Eisenhower to make such a change.
Winston Churchill could, of course, have thumped the table and insisted on doing what he wanted. I personally think that his viewpoint was the right one. But all the way through, he was animated by one really vital consideration. He mustn't do anything that might upset the war effort of the United States or of the Russians.
To the end, Churchill fights hard against Anvil, but finally he gives in, and with good grace. Operation Anvil begins.
Long rows of boats filled with American troops steamed in continuously to the Bay of Saint-Tropez. As far as I could see or hear, not a shot was fired either at the approaching flotillas or on the beaches. The battleships had now stopped firing, as there seemed to be nobody there.
Churchill focuses his attention on the main battlefield, central and northern France.
I thought this was an opportunity to visit Cherbourg and spend a few days in the Mulberry Harbor. I flew in an American Army Dakota to the Cherbourg Peninsula, and here I saw for the first time a flying bomb launching point.
Suddenly, on July 20th, while the battle in France is at its height, assassination. A group of high-ranking German officers attempt to murder Adolf Hitler.
Colonel von Stauffenberg had placed under Hitler's table a small case containing a time bomb. Hitler was spared from the full effect of the explosion by the heavy tabletop. Several officers present were killed, but the Führer, though wounded, arose exclaiming, "Who says I am not under the special protection of God?" All the fury of his nature was aroused by this plot, and the vengeance he inflicted on all suspected makes a terrible tale.
Unter der Gemeinheit! Natürlich! Die haben ja bestätigt, dass die KV sind! Also, häng your lump!
Hitler's revenge is unsparing. Thousands of Germans are executed and thousands more put into concentration camps. The ringleaders, high German staff officers, are put to death by slow hanging. The cruel spectacle is recorded on film for Hitler to enjoy in his leisure moments. Days after the attempt on Hitler's life, the Americans under the command of General Bradley break through in Normandy.
The 7th Corps struck southward from Saint-Lô, and the next day the 8th Corps on their right joined the battle. The bombardment by the United States Air Force had been devastating, and the infantry assault prospered. Then the armor leapt through. The German escape route down the coast of Normandy was cut, and the whole German defense was in jeopardy and chaos. Were jammed with retreating troops, and the Allied bombers and fighter bombers took a destructive toll of men and vehicles. The advance drove forward.
Within a week, the German lines have been ripped apart. Patton's Third Army pours into Avranches and westward through Brittany. By mid-August, Patton is racing east toward Paris, Montgomery north. All France lies open to the Allied armies. August 18, Churchill to Eisenhower.
I am following with thrilled attention the magnificent operations in Normandy and Anjou. I offer you again my sincere congratulations.
Late in August, the French underground forces began taking over sections of Paris. Days later, the leading tanks of General Leclerc's French 2nd Armored Division enter Paris. It had been Churchill's wish that Paris be liberated by French troops, and Eisenhower had agreed.
On August 24th, the first detachment moved on the city from Rambouillet. That night, a vanguard of tanks entered the square in front of the Hotel de Ville. Early next morning, armored columns held both banks of the Seine. By the afternoon, the headquarters of the German commander in the Hotel Meurice had been surrounded, and the commanding general surrendered to a French lieutenant. On this scene of long-delayed triumph, there arrived General de Gaulle.
Allons, enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie.
Next afternoon, on August 26th, de Gaulle made his formal entry on foot down the Champs-Élysées to the Place de la Concorde.